everybody, this is Mr. Morfetto, and today I want to talk about Season 3 of My Hero Academia. I gotta say, still loving this show, and I feel like it's on a steady incline. No dips so far that I can recall. If you could please like, share, and comment on this video, it would help me out oh so much. And if you could subscribe to the channel if you like it, that would be swell as well. But let's dive right in here into Season 3. I wanted to do this review before I get too far into Season 4 and my memory gets a little muddled, to say the least. But I really enjoyed Season 3. It really packed a lot into it. It felt longer than both of the last two seasons, but I think it was the same length as Season 2. It felt like they fit a lot into this season. I believe it kicks off. Season 3 kicks off with the kids going to like a summer camp type gimmick. Please excuse me if I forget any characters' names, because this season is jam-packed with new characters and other new villains, new heroes, and so forth. It is so hard to keep track of who's who in this game we're playing here. Especially with the villains, they just keep adding more and more, and now in Season 4, I am noticing even more and more heroes, which is just crazy what the author of this story comes up with. I can't wait to eventually read the manga just to see what's canon, what's not, what was made up just for the anime. But it kicks off, Season 3 kicks off with a summer camp gimmick. The beginning of they get off the bus miles away from the actual location of the camp, and their first test is to physically get there on foot first, the Class 1A at least. Class 1B is also here. I can't remember if they had to do this test as well, or they had to travel from a different direction, but Class 1A had to go through this forest. It definitely gave me the feelings of the Forest of Death from Naruto, but at the same time, it had its own twist to it, of course. It wasn't as big of a deal as the Forest of Death in Naruto, but it was definitely one of those fun ways for them to show us all of the abilities of Class 1A in a little montage. It was almost like a little music video of all of these kids using their quirks individually, which was fun. It looked like Ida and, if I remember correctly, Ida and Midoriya really took over the leadership of that. They had to work as a team to get through these golems-like creatures living in the forest that were being created by a cat character. There was actually a group of these cat superheroes, pros. They're like a squad, very reminiscent of Sailor Moon. They were cool, kind of funny. Definitely a funny gimmick that they were trying to get across. There was a dude and a couple chicks, and they also had this little boy who at first I thought was going to end up being important to the story going forward. Like, I thought maybe this little boy was older than he looks, and maybe his quirk keeps him as a child. Maybe he's more powerful than he looks, and maybe he's just already a pro because he's just so OP or he's so smart. But no, it turned out he was just a little kid that was being taken care of by one of the cat people because his family was murdered by a villain way years back before. So couldn't have been too long before because the kid didn't look too old. Once they got to the camp, Class 1A, I believe when they introduced the little boy to them, he literally punches Deku in the nuts. He decks Deku in the nuts, which was pretty funny. I bet it played pretty well in the manga as well. But mostly this camp was a lot of them trying to increase the power of their quirks in different ways. One thing I'd like to bring up that's starting to wear thin with the My Hero Academia Class 1A is that there are a handful of students that really, I feel, might not need to be in this prestigious class. I'm going to run down a couple. Ojiro, the tail man. Koda, the animal controlling guy. Sato, the guy with the sugar rush quirk. Siro, the tape elbow fella. Hakakura, whatever, the invisible girl. And, of course, Mineta. But Mineta is the comic relief. Same with Ayami, the naval laser fella. They both fit that role of the comic relief. But Ojiro, Koda, Sato, Siro, all kind of have no place here, especially Invisible Girl. I always forget about her. I literally forget about the invisible character, and I'm not sure if that's supposed to be the joke. But the tape-armed fella, the guy with the sugar rush, that doesn't seem... They don't really have a place in the show. They're there, and they do stuff, and they don't really progress. They haven't progressed since I've seen them. I know what they can do. Koda, the guy that can talk to animals, his English voice actor, just... I don't know. I don't like it. It bugs me a little bit, but he doesn't do a whole lot. He's probably done the least out of everybody in this class. And in season 2, before the sports festival, they talked about if you sucked at the sports festival, they could remove you from the class and replace you with people from the sidekick class or maybe Class 1B. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Class 1B is supposed to be a lesser class or they divided the groups evenly. They gave some OP quirked kids to the Class B and A, because there are some kids in Class 1B who are beasts, like the guy who can turn his body into metal, who's kind of like Kirishima. The girl who has the poison ivy hair that's like it's like a plant that she can manipulate, who took out Kaminari in the sports festival. She was badass. I would love to see more of her and him. And the kid who can control you if you answer one of his questions. I really was kind of fingers crossing them removing some of these lesser children from Class 1A to give us some badasses, some real kids to look at, to look forward to make this is my favorite character type gimmick. But Ojiro, the guy with the tail, what is he? He will never be a top tier pro, and neither will Sato, the Sugar Rush guy. I guess he does Hulk out a bit when he gets Sugar Rush, but the only time I've seen him actually do anything with it, he got tired very quickly, at least Showtime wise. He ate a bunch of sugar, and before we knew it, he was a little delirious. What can that do? These guys are sidekicks at best. Tape elbow guy. I mean, Zero, whatever his name. They're kind of a waste of space. They're good background characters. I guess you got to fill those roles. And I guess it makes the heart grow fonder to see the Class 1B do some stuff, which I'm waiting for because there are some cool kids in that class. I'm hoping that eventually they will funnel the kids that quote-unquote matter to the story into one cohesive class, so we could just follow all of them. But I know the story is mostly about Izuku, who's great, who's definitely one of my tops. He's a cool kid, reminds me a lot of a young Rock Lee, just trying to figure his shit out. And of course Bakugo and Todoroki. But I want to see more. I want to see more of these other kids going forward. But I digress. So they do this camp. They're all doing some real fun ways of increasing their abilities, or increasing how much of their quirk they can use at one time. I thought that it was really funny watching Tokuyami go into the cave to work on controlling Dark Shadow. I thought it was really interesting learning that Momo's quirk involved burning calories or fat cells. I wasn't sure exactly if it was calories or fat cells, but the way she creates is based on how much she eats, which is really cool. I think that's a really cool way. I love that most characters have a weakness or they have a drawback to their ability. And I think that's really cool. I don't like when characters are just so strong and they have no weaknesses whatsoever. Those type of characters have never interested me. And so far, they all seem to have some type of drawback or some type of time limit. And I like that. I like that a lot. Or they get tummy aches, like the Naval Laser fella. But, real quickly, the League of Villains decides to make an interruption to steal Bakugo, of all people, from the class, because I think they saw Class 1A, or they saw the sports festival, and they saw how angry Bakugo looked, all chained up and whatnot, and they thought, maybe we can turn this kid. Maybe we can make this kid, and join the dark side. Darth Vader this fella. So, Dobby, I think his name was, led a group of villains into the camp, and by the way, the camp was supposedly a secret to even All Might. I'm pretty sure they said something like that, the location of the camp. So I really want to know how they got this information. So these villains all decide to rush the camp. The kids get defended by the cat group, the cat heroes, the cat pros, but at the same time, there's a lot of villains going on. One thing that happens is Deku decides that he needs to go protect that little boy that punched him in the nuts previously. And the little boy wasn't around where they were right then, so he decided to go off and be like, I'm going to go get the kid and save him, take him to a safe space. And they end up running into a villain named Muscular, I believe his name is. He can manipulate his muscles. He's got a damaged eye as well. This was a really fun fight. I mean, for the first time, I believe, in the series, Deku's strength was matched by another opponent. Muscular's ability was all about strength, all about power, and his ability was pretty unique. He can make his muscles expand and grow at will and go outside of his body, which was kind of it wouldn't be a power I'd want. It just seems, I don't know, it gives you the heebie-jeebies. But he goes head-to-head with Deku, who has to literally shatter his bones to beat him in a head-to-head fight. His first few punches did nothing for Deku, and I could not believe it. I was like, this is awesome. He's finally getting matched up. I really want to see this Muscular. When I was watching it, I was like, I want to see Muscular fight All Might and get his one up, get his comeuppance, take on the main man. But that probably won't ever happen, sadly. But it was a good fight. It was the first time I thought, man, Deku could lose this fight. Or, man, is he going to lose his arm? Are they going to have to give him a robotic arm because he's shattering the limbs, the bones, the ligaments, everything? Because he had to keep using the same broken arm because it's all he had. It was crazy. Effing crazy. But he does end up beating this fella. Barely. He just knocks him out for the most part. They find out that the villains are after Bakugo. He lets Eraser know. Eraser, with help from the quirk, with one of the cat lady's quirks, decides to let everybody know that they can defend themselves. Because at first they were basically telling the kids, run away. You do not get involved in a hand-to-hand combat with these villains. Which, by the way, there was a few of them. There was a really cool moment where Dobby decides to attack Eraserhead, and Eraserhead shows them just how badass he is, and dodges it. And it turns out it's a clone of Dobby created by this other villain named Twice, who is definitely that Deadpool-type character who has like two personalities, but he can create clones of himself. I've always thought cloning abilities were dope. Honestly, on top 5 superpowers I'd ever want, I think being able to clone yourself and control those clones would be awesome. I think the downside to Twice's ability is that he can't technically always know what clone, who's the real clone or whatever. But he was cool. There was a couple B villains or C villains in this guy named Spinner, who was like this lizard man, and this guy named Magna. So they were there fighting the cat people. There was this guy named Mr. Compress, who was the main problem here, because he can touch you and turn you into like a little marble. And he's the one who actually gets Bakugo off guard. But before that, there's other shit going down. There's a Nomu, maybe two, running around the area, effing shit up. There's a mustard gas type villain mess. I think his name was literally Mustard. He was running around causing this poisonous gas to come. I'm not sure if it was deadly, if it just knocked people out. But he got taken down by Class 1B just barely. It was a good little fight, honestly. There was this really cool villain named Moonfish, who could, like, he was all wrapped up like a crazy person, but he could, like, expand his teeth or something in a crazy way, like little, like, blades coming out of his mouth. He had to be taken out by Tsukuyomi, or the bird fella, because there was no one else that could. And by the way, freaking Tokiyami was freaking out because it was nighttime and something happened to Shoji, so his Dark Shadow just freaked out, and we kind of learned how powerful Dark Shadow really can be, especially at night. And when it's out of control, he's basically a villain, which Mr. Compress happened to see and thought, man, this fella could be a good member of the League of Villains as well, if manipulated correctly. Or I wonder if they were also looking at trying to steal their quirks if they decided not to join them. They would just take their quirks away because they were so powerful. Because could you imagine if All For One got the Dark Shadow ability? I just now thought, man, that would have been a great little get for him, because it was so powerful of a shield. Shoji got a little bit of a character development, sort of helping out Deku, who was basically crippled at this point, running on fumes. Thank goodness Todoroki's ability is so OP, because he helped defend everybody with his ice and fire. I don't remember him having any major opponents during this fight. But I do remember Sue, my favorite female character, taking on Toga, the female villain of the League of Villains, who was trying to get everybody's blood, and she ended up getting Unravity's blood. And at the time, I didn't know why she wanted the blood, if it was to give the quirks to the Nomus. I wasn't sure. But she had a little bout with them. But thank goodness the rest of Class 1A came to save the day. Momo got a little bit of a character development because she's been known not to think quickly in shitty situations. And she put a tracker on the Nomu who was there. Mr. Compress, like I said, he compressed Bakugo. He compressed Bird Fella, Tsukuyomi, Tokiyami, and before Deku could even save him, they get away. They get away through a portal. They take Bakugo, but they save Tokiyami. So it was this. I wasn't sure if it was like a bait and switch. They were like, well, we need Bakugo. He was our original target. Let's get him no matter what. There was a few of other students of Class 1A who were already sealed away from the battle and were told by Eraserhead, do not get involved, which in honest, it's probably the best option possible. After this went down, the school gets bombarded with bad press and investigators trying to see if they're even able to keep their students safe right now. It's crazy. If you would think that this would ever happen, this must have never happened before, where the students are getting attacked by villains. But really, they couldn't do anything about it. They did everything they could. They kept the place secret. I believe the teachers were discussing the idea of somebody being a leak. Like another teacher possibly could be leaking information to the villains. Like, you think, well, we know it wouldn't be All Might, of course, and it wouldn't be Eraserhead. Could it be Eraserhead? That'd be insane. I really have this theory in my brain that the principal is secretly leaking information to the villains, and he is secretly evil. Because he's there's something about him that's so maniacal. From the minute I saw him, from the minute he started talking, I felt like this little guy is secretly evil. But it's going to be so interesting if way down the line, in season 5 or something, they figure out who the mole is here. Who's leaking this information? Which one of these teachers has secretly been on the bad side this whole time? I bet it's going to be someone that I could not even expect. So from there, most of the kids end up in the hospital for something or other. We learned that Deku pushed himself way too far and basically damaged major ligaments in his arm. Momo was pretty messed up and shaken up as well. They were in the hospital. All Might's ready for revenge. They find out she's got a tracker on one of these bad boys. Kirishima decides that Red Riot, decides that he wants to go save Bakugo. He didn't get an opportunity. Bakugo is his bro of sorts, and they want to go save them. So he forms a small little group with Deku, with Todoroki, with Momo, and Ida tags along as well. And they decide they're going to save this guy. We're going to save our team. I mean, I think they could have probably brought Invisible Girl, maybe. She could have been a big deal, being invisible. They want to be very stealthy. They don't want to get involved in fights because they know that a group of heroes is being formed as well, which was so badass seeing this group of heroes be formed to go fight the League of Villains. Because the League of Villains so far have been picking on young heroes, first-year students, and you're like, let's see these guys take on people their own size, their own age, pros that know exactly what they're doing, because they're going to get what's coming to them, and you want to see them get their asses handed to them for what they did to these kids. I personally did. I have no complaints up to this point. This was the Rescue Bakugo arc coming soon after him being taken. I can't remember exactly how long it was, maybe a few days, but they were ready to strike. Endeavor gets added to the squad. He doesn't really want to play second fiddle to All Might. Who else? Oh, the Genist. I really like this Genist fella. I thought he looked stupid when I first saw him, but he was kind of a badass. I really don't know if he's dead or just badly injured, but he ended up getting pretty messed up during this little bout. I'm a little ahead of myself here, but Todoroki and Midoriya, Momo, Ida, and Kirishima end up going to save Bakugo, and they end up following the tracker where the Nomus are. At the same time, All Might and his group split the heroes up, the pros up, because they realize there's two locations. One location where the tracker is, and one bar where the villains are said to be. So they decide to do basically a police raid into both locations at the exact same time, so there is no chance of being basically ambushed or outflanked by the other side, or if they didn't have Bakugo in one location, they'd have him in the other. Their main goal was to save Bakugo. They bust in, and they literally kick the League of Villains' asses before they even know what's happening. And I thought it was so awesome. The Nomus really didn't fight back, because they only seem to fight back when shit's going down, or when they're commanded to. Let me think. The guy who can manipulate wood, that guy is so badass. He's like a wood ninja. He comes in and takes everybody out with his wood, or at least restrains them. There's another fella, I cannot remember for the life of me, who like went inside the dude who can make portals, and knocked him out. Shit was going crazy. And I thought it was over. I thought it was over in seconds. I was like, well, that was it. Mount Lady ended up taking out Mount Lady, the Genist, and so forth, ended up taking out the other location. It seemed in the bag. And then out of nowhere, portals start opening up. All For One decides to start just releasing Nomus, who he shows up and starts kicking ass. The Genist gets to show off some of his abilities physically and strategically when he protects the other pros that are around him using his fibers. I think he can manipulate either just genes or he can manipulate all fabrics. I'm not sure, but he was able to save people. But it looked like he got badly injured by All For One, who looks crazy. I don't know how All For One even sees. I mean, it's still early. I've only just dipped my toes into season 4, but I'm confused how this fella looks around. Like, he's got no eyes. Did he lose his eyes? Does he have a quirk that helps him see around himself? I don't know, but he looks wild. I don't know why they didn't kill him when they had the chance. This guy's kicking ass, fucking up the whole plan. Just when they thought they had everybody locked up, they take Bakugo to the other location where he is, along with the rest of the villains. Shit's going down. All Might's pissed off. Endeavor's there kicking some Nomu ass, and that was really cool. The back and forths between Endeavor and All Might, I really enjoyed. It really made me think that these two have a storied past that I want to see. They have some history together that they were referencing without actually saying anything. It was really interesting. Their rivalry really interests me, and I hope they dive more into it, or hope they show flashbacks from it. I would personally watch an All Might prequel series about how he became the greatest hero of all time, and I feel like I'm not alone in when I say that. Endeavor ends up fighting most of the Nomus. All Might and Gran Torino end up back at the main battlefield, ready to kick some All For One ass. The rest of the villains really are pretty beat up and aren't fighting, or they're knocked out. They aren't doing much that I can remember. Oh, I think they go after Bakugo, who's also there. So at the same time, while All Might's trying to fight All For One, he's trying to protect Bakugo, which was really keeping his attention out of the way. Also, his time is running out. He's only got X amount of minutes left of his quirk. Team Midoriya is sitting on the outside saying, what do? We can't interfere, can we? We don't want to cause an incident where the school gets shut down. We don't want Bakugo to get killed. We don't want him to get taken again. I mean, what do you do? And then Deku comes up with an amazing plan involving Kirishima, because he knows that Bakugo he holds such a grudge about Deku's advancements, but he's a bro with Kirishima, so he's like, we're gonna run in there really quickly with Ida's jets, and we're gonna fly as fast as we can. I think they used Todoroki's ice to shoot off of a ramp, basically, and fly into the air, and he put his hand out, Kirishima saying, come on, motherfucker, we gotta go right now. And Bakugo, being smarter than he looks, smarter than people at this point have given him credit for, it goes with the plan immediately. They get out of Dodge. All For One tells the League of Villains to bounce and to basically keep the plan going from the shadows. All For One and All Might go at it in a very inspirational battle that the whole world is seeing broadcasted. All Might's running out of steam. I believe at some point he starts going back into his normal form. He's halfway normal, halfway skinny, halfway buff, super powered out. It was the end of the All Might era. It was so emotionally driven. I was just so excited. This was such a cool way I couldn't believe they were capping off this major fight, but it felt like this fight was this was All Might's battle that was still holding was still there from before Deku's time. Now and at the end of the fight, you really felt like, okay, Deku, now it's your turn. Midoriya, it's your turn now. He literally points at the camera after he beats All For One and says, it's your turn. And by the way, United States of Smash, what a sick finisher for All Might's character. I know he had the different attacks that were referencing different states of America, but the United States of Smash was some badass. I would never have thought of that name for his finisher, and what a way to go out. I would not be surprised if All Might finds a way to get power again, to fight again, because it does show us later that he can still transform, and I feel like right now it's just for comedic purposes, but if he can still transform, maybe he can build up a little more energy for one more fight. I think that they're gonna say that he's retired, say he's out of it, he's got no more quirk left, but if he can still transform, he's got a little quirk left. So maybe he can work his way back to having one more battle, because I personally, it's like a professional wrestler who retires and you're just waiting for them to make a return, because I feel like there is going to be a moment when All Might makes his big comeback. But that fight was awesome. Him versus All For One really felt like we were capping off the All Might, All For One story. The one for all for one. It was badass. We also learned that All Might's mentor was a female. Man, it was crazy. I really enjoyed this battle. I really enjoyed them capping off this whole thing. I believe after that, they had to make the students move into one building together. I'm almost positive. They make the kids all... There's more of a chill time going on now. They have to find a way to make the parents feel comfortable with the kids returning to school, so they decide to do dorms. I think there's a moment where Deku's mom doesn't want him to go back to school. She can't handle the pain, and you can really feel that. And you're like, man, his mom is secretly a really good character who's barely used, but when she's used, it's for really good moments, like human moments that show you that she's a real mom that's trying to protect her son, who's a fragile child, at least what she's known of him his whole life. A fragile kid who's always wanted to do this, but at first she says, no, you can't take this kid. But All Might basically pledges his life to protecting Deku, and his life to saying this boy is going to succeed me as the next big hero, the face of pros in this world that is My Hero Academia. And she's like, well, this guy is your mentor and he is your inspiration, and this guy says that you can be something special. I gotta believe him. And he says he's going to put his life on the line to keep you alive. Got to go with it. So the kids end up moving in. They have this episode, I believe, where they all show each other's bedrooms, which was really cool because you start to learn a little bit more about all the other characters who I mentioned who don't really have much screen time, or they don't do a whole lot. I'm going to bring this guy up again, Shoji, Six-Armed Man. I want to see more from him. He looks badass. He looks like he's got a cool quirk. He can do more. They also keep teasing the Tokiyami, the Birdman. His abilities are OP as hell when he wants them to be, or when the time is right. And I feel they keep teasing that they're going to do something big with him. And I have a feeling they will. They seem to pay off almost everything they tease. And I'm starting to really love that they're not being so one-dimensional. Like the idea that there might be a teacher that might be actually a villain leaking information. They haven't paid that off for me yet. So I'm hoping that they do build some of these characters up. And I'm hoping that some of these students that I don't expect to be anything special either end up being killed by a villain in front of our main hero's eyes to inspire them to become better, or inspire them to retire, whatever. Get murdered in a gruesome way as a young first-year child, second-year child, student, or whatever. They get taken out in a touching, sad moment, or they become something more. The students quickly have to go into they have to go take another test another test to get a pro card so they can actually work with the pros physically. I guess up until this point, they weren't legally allowed to fight unless their lives were literally on the line. So now if they get this pro card, they'll be legally allowed to fight and help other pros. And they're basically semi-pros at this point. It seems kind of fast for first years, but they've basically said that now that All Might is out of the picture, they need more heroes. Their plan is to flood the streets with heroes. So they have this really tough test. It was a shit ton of students, and they wanted to narrow those down to about 100. So they had this gimmick where they had all the students in this crazy battlefield, and it was really fun to see, and it really got you jazzed up. And they had a bunch of different schools show up, which was really interesting. And they basically had to hit they had 3 targets on each student, and they had to hit all 3 targets, and they had to take out 2 students, I believe, to pass the first round of this tournament type thing. It was really interesting because they also promoted classes to work together. But some of the students, like Todoroki, decided to go off on his own. Bakugo decided to go off on his own, but Kirishima and Kamimari decided to go with him, which they seem to be like a little trio. They seem to be like a little squad of buddies here, a little bro squad. Even though it seems like Mineta and Kamimari has like a little bit of a pervy relationship as well. One thing I did not like about this part of the story was it felt like every student from Class 1A, every one of them passed this test, which I feel like there are some weak... I can understand if the invisible girl passing because she uses her invisibility to get around somebody or something. But they should have had somebody like Sato or Koda or Ojiro fail this test, or Ida. They even teased it with Naval Laser Fella. They teased that he was going to sacrifice himself so that Ida could pass. And I was like, sweet, cool. Now not everybody's going to pass this first round. That makes sense. I could understand, I could even just give him one person not making it, but at the same time, they would have promoted him being chivalrous in a way and realizing that he's not as badass as some of these other kids. But they could have he ends up passing because the rest of Class 1A ended up helping them out. But he was going to make the ultimate sacrifice, which didn't involve death, but it was really heroic. I think they should have let Naval Laser Fella fail this test. They should have let a couple other kids in this class that aren't really performing as well. Mineta fail this test, but they could have had a couple of the underdogs pass, of course. They even had a little group with Momo and Sue and Shoji and Jiro all teamed up, and they found a way to pass. That makes sense. They worked together as a unit. Momo is turning out to be more of a strategist, like I think she should be. She should be, by the end of Season 4 or Season 5 or whatever, and the next time they end up in a tournament, her ability promotes a strategist. Could you imagine if someone like Shikamaru had the ability to create any item out of thin air, well, out of his calories, basically? Imagine if he can have any item he wants just by knowing what goes into it because he's so smart. Momo needs to become the ultimate strategist, and I like that they're slowly working up to that. I'm hoping, fingers crossed. Izuku Midoriya seems to be a little bit of a strategist as well. They end up all passing this first round, along with a bunch of other students from different classes. It's hard to keep track of these names, so if I just called them by their ability, forgive me. The next round is these kids have to save a bunch of people who are pretending to be people in crisis, basically. They're pretending to be people who need help. They're basically hired to pretend to be people in danger in this test. I don't know how often they get to work or how much they get paid to do this. But it doesn't seem like... Maybe they're actors and they also do acting on the side. This would be a great little mini job for up-and-coming actors, honestly. It's a little dangerous. Or they're stuntmen, whatever. They look like so. And while they're doing this, saving these fake people... Real people, but fake people in danger, they are keeping score. I think at one point Izuku's like, "Oh God, what do we do? This is so dangerous." And he's like, "You're not making the citizen feel safe. You're not making them feel like you are in control." Kind of like how All Might's always confident, always smiling for a reason. They want these kids to be in control, and that's another point to my fact that some of these kids aren't going to be major pros. At best, they'll be sidekicks. At best, why aren't they in the sidekick class? Unless sidekick class is basically just people who build weapons, like that one chick, pink-haired chick from the damn sports festival, then just move on. Some of these kids are not built to be major pros. I thought Class 1A, I thought this school was supposed to breed the best of the best, not some of the best and some sidekicks. I'm not sure. Some are developing faster than others. They're all first years, so I got to give them that benefit of the doubt. But this Gang Orca, I think his name is, this Orca pro shows up who looks like a villain. And I think they even say that top 10 pros that look like villains, he's one of them. He shows up with a fake group of villains to invade the test, on purpose, of course. But he shows up in a badass fashion, ends up fighting Todoroki, Izuku Midoriya, and one of the other students who can manipulate wind, I believe. And that was awesome. I wanted to see this guy, who was also, I believe, wearing weights to make sure that he wasn't... so he's a pro. He's going to kick all their asses if he wasn't wearing weights. He shows up in a really cool fashion, pretending to be a villain just for the sake of this test. And I thought, this is going to be awesome. I can't wait to see what happens here with this fight. It turned out not to be as big of a deal as they made it seem. I thought this guy was going to go balls out with these students. I would have loved to see this Orca fella really show us everything he's got. Todoroki has a little bit of a character development moment with the other student who can manipulate wind. Because I guess he didn't acknowledge him at some point, and I guess this kid couldn't get an autograph from Endeavor at one point, so he's always had a grudge against Endeavor and his family or something, which is fine, I guess. He doesn't believe that Endeavor should be a hero because he's not inspirational and he's not a nice fella, which I don't think so. I think Endeavor is a fiery badass, and he knows it. He'll never be the All Might type hero, but he's his own hero. He's probably not good for press, but he's a good number 2. But now he's technically number 1 now that All Might's is out. The whole number system is all changed. So Todoroki mends that bond by they ended up having to work together because they kept clashing. His fire and his wind just kept clashing, So Izuku Midoriya had to step in and say, "What are you doing? We need to save these people. We need to beat Gang Orca so we can get everybody out of the way." It was something. It was something to behold. And it ended up being... Todoroki ended up failing the test because of his confrontation with the other student. And so did Bakugo, who just wasn't taking the test seriously enough and telling all these people to basically F off and save yourself, which I thought was pretty funny. And they almost seem like they're like, well, does he know that we're not that important to save because we aren't hurt? I thought that was really interesting. And I thought, what if it'd be funny if Bakugo passed by being a dick? But Bakugo and Todoroki ended up failing this part of the test. I really wanted to see Bakugo go head-to-head with King Orca, or Gang Orca. I thought that would have been sick. Because the Orca guy came in like a badass. Another thing, I want to go back real quick. When Endeavor actually inspired All Might during his last fight with All For One, which I thought was a really cool moment. When he was like, "Is this the number 1 hero? Come on, bitch!" I thought that was dope. They basically, the whole class except for Todoroki and Bakugo pass, which I still think is BS. This is one of the biggest problems I had with this season. They need to acknowledge that some of these students aren't going to be able to get this semi-pro card yet. Maybe wait till next year and let them take the same test again off screen and then become semi-pros. Show that they are a step behind. Show some character progression. There's no way all these students are passing. No way. Basically, from there, Bakugo ends up fighting Deku one-on-one for an episode because he's sick and tired of he wants to know what's going on with Deku and All Might. And I think they end up explaining it to him, or he figures it out because he's a smart kid. It was interesting. I to say the least, it was really interesting. It was a good one-on-one fight between these two rivals. They end up kind of mending their bonds. I would highly, if you don't watch anything from the show, go watch Deku versus Bakugo. It was a fun fight. I don't think it matches up to anything that I've seen in like Naruto, for example, in epic fights, but it was a good fight. I really enjoyed it. It had really cool hand-to-hand combat, really cool ways of using their quirks. I think Bakugo actually ended up winning, even though Deku ended up doing cool he used his kicks because he developed a new shoot style. I think I skimmed over this. They all were developing finishing moves, and during that time, Deku developed a new kicking style of fighting because he messed up his arms so much, and he's trying to preserve his arms, basically, and develop his own style. Just because All Might is a punching type hero doesn't mean he has to be. And so Deku started using his ability to use speed. The other thing that's confused me is I thought slowly but surely Deku would have to eat more of All Might's hair, but it doesn't seem to be that way. You just eat one strand of hair and that passes it all over. I don't know yet. Maybe down the line All Might's going to give Deku more hair to eat. I thought maybe every season he'd give him another strand of hair or another piece of his like a toenail or something to eat to get a little bit more of the one for all power. But it doesn't seem to be that way. It seems like he has to slowly build his body up for this ability to work properly. But other than that, I think the last part of Season 3 was the Big Three. Coincidentally, the Big Three end up showing up, which was pretty cool. These three kids, let me look up their names because I cannot remember them. Big Three, My Hero. The Big Three are the top 3 students of the whole school, of UA High School. And they are pretty cool. I thought that, honestly, that I wouldn't like them. At first, Miro, I'm just going to use Sun Eater and Lemillion and whatnot. These kids are the top dogs in this school, and they show up at the very end of Season 3, I believe, to show these kids that they have a long way to go now that they're able to be semi-pros. Lemillion, or whatever, the top dude, the dude with the blonde hair, who I thought he kind of looked like, when I first saw pictures of this guy, I thought he looked kind of like a douchebag. Mirio Togata, yeah, but he turns out he's one of my new favorite characters, to be 100% honest, and I know he's going to play a big role in Season 4 since I've already a few episodes in. He's pretty cool. I like I like the cut of his jib. He basically single-handedly kicks the entire Class 1A's ass, everybody except for Todoroki and Bakugo, basically. And I thought that was really interesting. He kicks their asses one at a time. I couldn't say anything else. He has an ability where he can phase through walls and through the earth and then pop back up and attack. He's trained his body and his mind to control his quirk to the best of his abilities. He even explains that he doesn't have necessarily a really good quirk. It's just he's trained himself to use it to its best. He's trained his body so he's strong. He's fast physically, probably than the average human, and then he uses his quirk accordingly to make himself faster and to show more punching abilities. He also explained that his quirk has a major downside, that when he's using it He loses his ability to see and hear, so he has to go on instinct, I guess, or basically him making himself so well trained. The other two students don't really show much of their abilities in season 3, but they're there and they really set themselves apart. I hope if they have another sports festival or another tournament, they include these 3 to see where our Class 1A students hold up against them. Obviously, if they can't handle him one on most of the entire class in a group fight, I don't know what they can do against them one-on-one going forward. But yeah, that was basically the end of season 3. It was absolutely jam-packed with new characters, new ideas, new things that I didn't know about the past, new theories like a teacher being secretly a villain. I can't wrap my head around it because I really want to know which one is the villain, but at the same time I love the idea of the mystery. I love the idea that they're setting things up to be paid off seasons down the line. I assume they've already paid it off, but I just haven't reached it yet. If you could please like, subscribe, share. I'm really enjoying this adventure in this My Hero universe. It's so much fun. I'm going to keep working towards finishing this anime, and then I can start coming up with theories of my own going forward. If there's any of these characters you'd really like me to deep dive into, to sink my teeth into, please let me know in the comments. Please subscribe. I, Mr. Morfetto, will talk to you later.